Hey, Heritage, aren't you glad it's spring? I know. I mean, we live in Ohio, and from one moment, we don't know what it's going to be like. It's warm, and then it's cold for 5 days, and then we get a little warm spell, and then it's cold again, and guess what? We're expecting snow tonight. But we have made the best of it as a family, and I got to tell you a story that ties into this devotion I'm about to share with you. It was on Easter Sunday. I came home from church, and Missy and I had already talked about this. We didn't know for sure when we were going to do it, whether lunch or evening. I said, let's do it in the evening. Here's what we did. Took my whole family down into my living room where we have a fireplace. And by the way, that fireplace has been running for 5 days now. Yeah, with the cold snap. And so we took them down there around the fireplace, and I had fried up some delicious cod. And we had some other things, and we sat it down there. We put pillows on the floor. And then I told him some stories after the resurrection of Jesus. There's 3 stories in the book of John that I highlighted, and I walked him through those stories. And I want to walk you all through those stories today. The first one that we come to in the book of John, it says it was the first day of the week, right after the resurrection of Jesus. It was that evening. The disciples are all in the upper room. That is minus Thomas. Thomas wasn't there, but the disciples were. All the others were, and Thomas, we don't know where he was at, but here they are. They're having these conversations. It does say this in this passage. There was great fear. There was great fear in that room. And so much fear to the point that when Jesus came in, I think they were even more fearful because the doors were locked, the windows were barred, and Jesus just appears in their midst. But he says, peace be with you. He says, peace be with you. And then he shows them the nail scars, and he shows them the scar in his side. And there was great rejoicing because they knew it was Jesus that moment. And I examine that story, and I look at this. Jesus came into their midst to calm their fears. He calmed their fears. The second story takes place a week later. Thomas happens to be there this time. All the disciples are together. The doors are locked. Windows are barred. Thomas has already told him, unless I touch his nail scars and put my hand in his side, I won't believe. And here comes Jesus into their midst. I'm sure Thomas was shocked. And Jesus walks right up to Thomas after he says, peace be with you again. And he says, Thomas, go ahead, touch him. Put your hand in my side. And Thomas does. And there was great rejoicing in that room as Jesus came in and calmed their doubts. The third story takes place on the water. Jesus is on the shore. They don't know it's Jesus. The disciples decided, we're going to go out fishing. And they fished all night long. They could not catch a single fish. Not a single one. Morning comes around. They see this man walking on shore. And the man yells out, friends, have you caught any fish? And if you're a fisherman and somebody calls out to you and you caught no fish, you don't want to say no, but they're like, no. And Jesus says to him, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you'll catch some. So they do. And guess what? They do. They catch a boatload of fish. Matter of fact, 153 large fish were in their net, more than they've probably ever caught in their life. And the net didn't break, and the boat starts hauling it into shore. And the disciple whom Jesus loved speaks up and says, it's Jesus. And that's when Peter jumps in the water and begins to swim to shore. He gets there, he waits on the other disciples, and they can smell the breakfast being cooked. Jesus has already been there cooking fish and bread, and he looks at him and says, well, go get some of your fresh fish and I'll cook them. Peter goes back, gets some of those large fish out of the net, brings them back. They sit around the fire, and Jesus serves them a breakfast just like Jesus would. I mean, serving them once again, even after the resurrection. But it was at a certain point, Peter and Jesus must have been opposite on the fire. And Jesus looks at Peter and says, Peter, do you love me? Oh, you know I love you. The second time he said, Peter, do you love me? You know I love you. Third time, Peter, do you love me? Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. You see, it was around another fire just a few days before that Peter denied Jesus 3 times. But now he's reinstating him and saying, man, listen, Peter, I love you so much. I want to put all 3 stories together for just a moment. Listen, these are troubled days. This coronavirus, man, it's something that many fear and many have doubts about certain things that are circulating around. And I want you to know 3 things. Number 1, Jesus wants to calm your fears in this time. Secondly, he wants to calm your doubts in this time. And third, I want you to know that he loves you. He loves you, he loves you, he loves you. He loved you enough to die for you. He loved you enough to come back from the dead for you. He loves you. And I think you combine those 3 things and know that Jesus loves you and he's here to calm your fears and your doubts. You'll get through this. Keep your eyes on Jesus in the middle of this storm, and I promise you'll get through this. I want to give you a couple of updates, and every Thursday, I will try to give you a little devotional thought, and I will try to follow it up with some different updates. And as we move forward, I will try to keep you informed of what we're going to do next as a church. Let me just give you a couple of updates. Number 1, shepherd groups are already being formed. The leaders of these geographical areas, we've divided out our area into 11 locations. These leaders are receiving your names, your emails, and your cell phone numbers so that we can make contact on you and love you. So if you haven't received a telephone call or an email yet, don't worry. Probably by early next week, you will have received this. We're still forming the groups and getting them set up, but we're excited about what this is going to do for the contact and the communication of our church, and you can share prayer requests with us, and we can help pray for you. So those are in formation. Some groups have already, some leaders have already begun to contact their people, and there will be more happening in the days to come. Also, Root to Fruit. All right, that is the series we are coming back into this Sunday. I'm excited about sharing this message on gentleness. I think there's a lot of strong people in this world, but not all of them are gentle, and I think the 2 can coexist. You can be strong and gentle at the same time. I hope you'll tune in this Sunday. And by the way, we have 3 times you can watch: 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. All right, so invite some friends, just like you did for Easter, to join you at a 10 o'clock, a 12 o'clock, or a 2 o'clock time frame. Also, if you want to find additional information, find devotionals that we've been doing, find the study guides that will help you and your family to follow up on the messages that I preach. All that will be posted on heritagenaz.church. So I hope you will check that out. Heritage, again, your staff loves you. We are praying for you daily. And God bless you, and may he protect you and provide for you in this time. Blessings.